Welcome. My name is Noëlle, and I am speaking with my colleague and friend Peter Mt Shasta, who, as he says, was given the book I Am the Open Door by the Ascended Masters. A few years ago, I was asked to translate this book into Dutch, and you could say it's a profound guide to directly make contact with the Ascended Masters for guidance. So I'm happy to speak about this with Peter today. So welcome, Peter. I would like to ask you if you'd like to share with us how this book came to you.
Thank you for this opportunity. My teacher, Pearl, in Mount Shasta, who was assistant to Godfrey Ray King, who started the St. Germain Foundation in the 1930s, always said, never channel because it weakens people. People need to learn to find not only the ascended masters within themselves, but their own God presence, their higher self, and to get the guidance from the higher self. And if you give people messages or you call on the masters to come through you for somebody else, that it weakens them. So I never sought to be a channel or do anything like that. But one day, it's very interesting, there are decisions you make on the spiritual path if you're going to serve the light or if you're going to try just to be a normal human being and do what everybody expects you to do. So, of course, the first challenge is with your family and your friends. But there are some times when you find you have to do something that may be a surprise to other people. It's not what they expect. So I was on my way to San Francisco, where I'd been invited to have a Thanksgiving dinner with my cousins there. And I came to a fork in the road, and to go to San Francisco, I would have taken the right fork, go that way. But somehow the car wanted to go left, That's the only way I can describe it. In my heart, the pull was go left. So I said, this feels like guidance, because you get the guidance from the center of your being. I'll go left. I can go like a mile. If it's not right, I'll turn around, come back. So I went, and immediately it felt good. That's the sign I made the right decision. So I kept driving, and then I realized it seemed like I was going to be going to the East Coast. I kept driving. Finally, I ended up in Winnemucca, Nevada, and I said, I better call my cousin and say, I'm not going to make it for Thanksgiving. There's some other plan. And of course, she didn't believe in all of this stuff about guidance in the masters. And she said, well, that's par for you. We should have known we couldn't depend on you. So I felt kind of bad about that, to let her down. But again, the choice was follow the expectations of my family or follow the inner presence, So I kept saying, I am being guided, I am being directed. And it kept feeling right. So finally, a few days later, I ended up, about more like a week later, ended up in New York, and where my family was, my mother's house, and she was surprised to see me. But while I was staying there, I went through kind of an ordeal where there was a woman that I had met in Mount Shasta, and I had been shown that we were twin rays. In other words, two parts of the same soul. And of course, in the New Age, everybody's trying to find their twin ray. And they think that when they do, everything's going to be beautiful. But they don't realize sometimes you're not meant to be together, which was in this case, because we were both at very different places on the spiritual path. And she didn't really believe in the work I was doing with Pearl and with the masters. But still, there was that soul longing to be together, to work together. And while I was there in New York, she came to visit, but I was shown in a dream that if we were together, life would be a disaster. So I had to tell her that we were not meant to be together and that we had to separate. And this was very, very difficult. And for about a week, I felt like I was dying. And then one day, I was meditating in my room upstairs, and a ball of light came down from the ceiling, a dazzling, bright ball of golden light. And I heard a voice say, "Write." And I thought, "Write? Write what?" And it said, "Go to the desk." So I went to the desk and I picked up a pen. And then I heard the voice say, "No, pencil." I don't know why that was, but then I said, "Okay, what am I supposed to write?" And I heard this sentence, "In the center of your being is a great light." And I thought, well, what comes next after that? And this voice said, "Write the first sentence, then we will give you the second sentence." So at that point, this ball of light followed me and stood beside me. And well, being came out of the ball of light that was the great divine director. And I will show you a picture of this being. If you met this being, you would say, "This is God." The being of just dazzling golden light and a panel of blue sapphires hanging from his waist down to the floor. And the energy was so intense, I felt like my body, physical body, was dissolving. And he raised me into the consciousness of my I am presence. In other words, I was not in the physical body anymore. I was about 50 feet in the air. And I could see a spherical vision. I could see the entire neighborhood. I could see the children playing down the street. I could see the dog barking up the street. I could look down, see the top of my head, and I could see what I was writing. But I could see in a complete sphere. And I know Yogananda talked about this once. His gurus put him in that same state where he could see everything in a circle. And there was just a feeling of tremendous bliss. And then I was back in my physical body, and then I kept hearing his words. So I wrote down what he was saying. And I've never written so fast in my life. The words just came one after the other. And I said, the energy was so intense, I said, "I can't take it. I can't take the energy." And he said, "You can and you will." And I went, whoa, okay. Because I felt like I was dissolving, that I was going to ascend right there. So I kept writing. I don't know how long it was, maybe an hour, 45 minutes. And then he stopped and disappeared. And I was, phew. That was the first discourse by the great divine director in this book. And then every day for about the next 10 days, a different master would appear. The next one, I think, was Saint Germain. And there were a couple of goddesses, Kuan Yin, the goddess of mercy, the goddess of compassion, Hilarion. There was about 10 different masters. And I think there are 14 discourses altogether. It was very interesting. Whenever one of these masters would appear, my parents would be taken out of the house. And it's because the energy was so intense that they couldn't take it. They would just say, "Oh, we remembered we have to go somewhere." They would leave. And as the discourse was ending, they would come back to the house. And each of these discourses was a tremendous blessing. In fact, after the discourse by Saint Germain, I was so elated, I got up and I just said, I imagined that Saint Germain was in front of me. Now I could see these masters, some of them more clearly than others, but during the discourse, in the beginning of it, I could see them there, and Saint Germain was fairly clear, but then he had disappeared. So I got up and I said, Saint Germain, I bow to you. I am so grateful for this. And suddenly, a shaft of violet light came down into the room, and Saint Germain appeared in front of me. And he bowed also, and he said, Peter, I bow to you also. And then he went back up and disappeared, and the tube of violet light disappeared, you know. So at the end of the end of 10 days, I had these 14 discourses, and eventually that was published as this book, I Am the Open Door. So that's briefly, the story is in my autobiography, Apprentice to the Masters. It's the whole title is Adventures of a Western Mystic, and volume 2 is Apprentice to the Masters. I tell the story in a little bit more detail, but that's briefly how that book came to be. So,
that's beautiful, beautiful to hear. When was this? How old were you then?
That was in 1977. So let's see.
And now you're 77. So what a
Well, I
beautiful.
was about 33, I think. Yeah, and the book was finally published in 78, and it really became a bestseller. The funny thing is, see, my name is not on it as the author. The author is Ascended Masters, because I was just more like the editor, or what they call it, amanuensis. So these are really by the Ascended Masters. I don't take credit for it at all. And they've never channeled another book to me. I think they wanted to show me what real channeling is, and that most of the stuff that's out there is channeling is coming from different levels of the human mind, or sometimes from discarnate entities, because by and large, the masters don't go around doing this, but on occasion they do. But they wanted to show me what the real thing is. And also it was an amazing introduction to these masters who have been my friends and mentors for the rest of my life up till now.
Was it the first book you wrote also, or?
Yeah, first book, yeah. There have been a dozen others, or I guess about 10 others since then. And you're translating, or you did translate this into Dutch, so that's great. It's been translated into French, I think, also, and will be translated into Korean soon. So. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's wonderful how that happened in a way that was kind of asked as well. I remember well sitting in early spring in the Netherlands in the forest, and someone sent me an article about Ascended Masters, and I've never heard of that then. And at some point your name appeared on that page, but instead of reading your name, I saw your image. And that was kind of new to me. I had never experienced something strange, relatively strange like that. And then there was this message in my heart, contact me. And this was very new to me, and I didn't trust it. It would be so random for me to then contact you. But as I walked to the kitchen, it kept repeating itself. And I thought, well, I have nothing to lose, so let me Google Peter. And so I found your email address and asked you what you want me to contact you about. And then you spoke about the translation of this book that hadn't been finished and hadn't been completed. It was half done or something like that. And that same evening, I sat down on the couch and I felt surrounded by all these beings of light. And it was so uplifting, and there was so much light in the whole room. And I was afraid that I was going to levitate. Because I was kind of afraid for things that cannot happen according to, you know, normal existence. So it was kind of scary, but also very beautiful at the same time. And then soon after that, the translation process started. And meanwhile, I was living in a yurt, like straight in nature. And every morning at 7 a.m., I sat behind my desk, and these masters would support me in each and every part of the book. In each discourse, I would feel the energy of them. And sometimes the translation process was really complicated. I was really puzzled, like, how do I, you know, bring the same energy into words without, you know, missing the meaning of it? And then Saint Germain would often come and just type through my hands, and then I wouldn't even know what I was typing. And after that, I would read the sentence and look like, wow, what a great solution for this problem that I just had. And also what I recognized from your story is that the energy was so intense and so high up that I didn't know how to deal with it. It was like, yeah, so much. And then a friend taught me some yogic trick of putting my tongue against my upper palate and then sending the energy down, which saved me. And yeah, it was a very beautiful process.
Good. I mean, I should mention that the book is like a passport to the masters, you know, to the ascended master octave, that people tell me similar stories that they just, you know, hold it and they feel the presence of the masters, or just open it and read one sentence. And the whole essence of the book is really that you are a God being, you know, we are gods, and you can contact that individualized God presence, which resides about 50 feet above you, but in a higher, I don't like the word dimension, a higher frequency. And then you also have a Christ self or etheric self, which is between the human self and the God self, and that you can contact this divine presence, which is there waiting for you all the time. That's how I always wondered as a kid, how could God hear everybody's prayers on the earth at the same time? It's because God is not far away. God is 50 feet above your head, but sends a tube of light, a beam of light down through the top of your head, and it's anchored in your heart. So that's like a microphone, you know, what do they call it? A Bluetooth, you know? It's hears everything, and it's on 24/7, even in your sleep. God is listening to your thoughts and prayers and responds accordingly. So you don't have to go anywhere to the top of a mountain or go to the Himalayas. God is right there listening all the time and answers depending on your sincerity. But to trust that the answer doesn't always come as words, you know, frequently it doesn't. It just comes as a feeling or an inspiration to do something, or an intuition, you know.
And that's the beauty also about this book, that it brings you directly in contact with the masters. It teaches you, it shows you how to do that, and you can instantly work with it. So it's not so, what you also say, not so far away anymore to contact that divine presence.
Yes. And it's encouraging because these masters were all humans like us, you know. Saint Germain was Francis Bacon in the Elizabethan court, and wrote the Shakespeare plays using the name Shakespeare as a pen name. But he had lots of challenges. He had relationship problems, financial problems, political problems. He had powerful enemies at the court. You know, his own mother did not acknowledge that he was the rightful heir to the throne of England. You know, that was Queen Elizabeth. He was given up to one of her ladies in waiting to raise. And so he had quite a challenging life. And you think that just before you become an ascended master, your life is going to be easy, but frequently it's quite difficult because that's where the lessons are.
Yeah, makes sense. So how does that work actually with the ascended masters? Do they come up and down and incarnate again and be lifted up? Or
no, they don't need to take on a physical body again. I suppose they could if they chose to, but that is generally the last physical incarnation to reach that. It's like the lower self, the middle self, and the higher self all merged together. Now in Tibet, there are yogis that learn to do that, and it's called attaining the rainbow body, or jalus. And people have witnessed that. Like, I studied with a Chinese teacher, and he was present when his master dissolved the physical body, and there was 7 like explosions of different colored light that filled the sky, and all that was left was the master's hair and fingernails on the ground, and his robe, I think, kind of like Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars, you know. But there are beings that have actually ascended the physical body, dissolved the physical body as well, but we don't really need to do that. When we leave the physical body at what they call death, which is not really death because our souls are immortal, we can ascend and merge those higher bodies at that point. And then if we choose to stay in the atmosphere of Earth to help humanity.
So their physical body, when ascension happens, the physical body can rise literally up, but doesn't have to.
Yes, there are very few beings on the earth that have the ability to actually dissolve the physical body. And that's not really necessary. You can leave the physical body and ascend from the, merge the higher mental body or the Christ self with the I am presence. But there are, just good to know, there are some beings who have achieved that.
So is ascension possible for all of us?
Absolutely, for everyone. What I find is that the trick is to actually be in contact with the I am presence, but to still be in a body. Because I've been offered that chance to leave 3 times now. And whenever I start to go up into my higher body, I see the suffering on the earth and I decide to stay. And I say, as long as I can help people, I will try to stay in the physical body, because, we wouldn't be having this conversation now if I had ascended 5 years ago.
Yeah, that's true. And so how does that look like for you? Do you feel that you're connected to that higher self, or is it also kind of incarnating and coming down?
No, I can, in meditation, connect with the I am presence, but then I have to be careful not to do too much, because then it's so joyful in that world not to want to be in the physical anymore, And you become aware that you're also able to interact with the human world in higher bodies, So like when I go to sleep at night, I'm aware of talking with people in different places on the earth. So sometimes when I wake up in the morning, I feel I've been busier at night than I am during the day. So, but you become aware of the great service you can do being in the body. You have more opportunity to intercede for humanity, that your every affirmation is affecting humanity. So when you say, I am the living light, and you see a sun here and emanating out, that's, your thoughts go out. You are like a Wi-Fi router, and that signal is affecting everyone on earth. Everyone is dialed into that frequency and receives it. So if you say, I am like I am the medicine Buddha, I am a being of healing energy radiating out to humanity. That goes out. It affects your neighbors, the city in which you're living, the whole planet. So that book, this I Am the Open Door, really gives people encouragement and gives some affirmations so that you can be of more service. So, you know, people wondering, what can I do? I'm just sitting alone in my room here. Nobody knows I'm here. You can do these affirmations. In fact, that was another book I wrote, this book of I Am Affirmations, instructions on how to do the affirmations. I Am Affirmations and the Secret of Their Effective Use. That gives some basic meditation instruction, how to still the mind, and how to, it gives actually quite a number of meditations for different, or affirmations for different purposes, so you can be of service. And this is what mastery is really on the earth plane. A lot of people are studying to be in the oneness, the Advaita kind of oneness where there's no self and you've just merged with the absolute. But then you're not on the earth anymore and you're not benefiting humanity. So this is the great choice to be a bodhisattva, to stay and be of service. And so staying on the earth plane and doing these affirmations is the work of a bodhisattva and is great service to your fellow human beings.
Yeah, that's very beautiful. And I'm also wondering about the wide range of accessibility, in the sense that when there are personal challenges, especially in these times, you know, that there's a lot of fear and so forth, then how do we combine using these positive affirmations and being real and true with them, and yet, you know, working with our own challenges? How do you see that?
Well, that's a great trick. I see. That's why I talk about two kinds of meditation. One is the more light meditation, the energy and the affirmations. The other part is self-examination. You know, if something's bothering you, not just to decree it out of existence, you know, because it's going to come back, you know, until you have looked at the source. So it's like to turn your attention inward and say, what am I feeling? Well, I'm feeling angry at so-and-so. Well, I am being shown where that anger is coming from. And then you see kind of like a movie, and, oh, did I play some part in that? Did I trigger that person? Or have I ever done anything similar? Or when is the last time I felt that anger? Maybe it's, you know, I'm angry at my mother because she dropped me on my head when I was 2 years old, or, you know, you have to go in and look at the source of those things and resolve them. So that's, you know, what I call the self-examination meditation. And actually, there's also another kind, just being mindful, but that self-examination is a part of that. Like Trungpa Rinpoche, the great Tibetan Lama, said, if you can be aware of the suffering of the world and of your fellow friends and associates at the same time as you hold the awareness of the rising sun in your chest, you can hold both of those at the same time, then the warrior can make a good cup of tea. So that means to do something simple, like just make a cup of tea in full consciousness of your environment and everything going on in yourself. That is like real mastery.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So there's a lot of work to do, you know. It's not just doing affirmations, also being mindful of what you're doing in the moment and realizing that your thoughts are affecting others. So why not send out positive thoughts, you know?
Yeah. And so we don't affirmate the challenges away, so to say, but we affirmate towards them. That's what I heard when they arise. And when there's more space again, we can be of service to others. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, in the moment, say you feel impatient at somebody, you can say, I am patience, I am compassion in that moment, or just feel the in-breath and the out-breath for 10 breaths, and then you calm down. Then later you can go home, say, work on, why did I feel impatient at that moment? What is it in me? And really do some self-examination, work on the cause. And then you can affirm, I am dissolving and consuming the cause of that impatience or that frustration, you know. But all those things that bother us, the things that happened years ago that still bother us, that is where the real growth is, to go within and look at the cause of those. What is that showing me about myself? But then, you know, to affirm your basic goodness, to say, you know, even though I'm suffering from this or that, I am a good person. I have the light of God within me, and to try to identify with that. And then that light sort of burns up all of those clouds.
That's a wonderful description. So that's basically how we combine, you know, recognizing what we are on a deeper level with the affirmations in this case, and then shining through, not neglecting or negating, which is often common, what's also there, like the challenges, the worldly human difficulties. Yeah.
No, the affirmations are important because the mind, the way the world is set up, it's kind of more to remind you of all the bad stuff happening, and the human mind gets trapped in a vicious cycle, you know, where it starts affirming the negative things, you know, like when you look at the news, you don't see much good stuff, you know, so you start worrying about those things. Then you can affirm, I am the presence of the living God, and the ascended masters are watching over me. There is a plan for my life, and I know everything is going to work out as intended. You know, like I say this every day, I know the masters are watching me. I know Jesus is with me. I know Saint Germain, Mother Mary, the angels are watching, and they're aware of what's happening in my life, and they're going to make sure that the divine plan works out, you know. And that doesn't mean there won't be some heartache or pain, because that's a part of the lesson, you know, that's a part of being human. That's how we learn compassion for other people. But still, it removes that feeling, you know, that, oh, I've done something wrong, or I'm not doing everything I can do, or, you know, I prayed to God for world peace, and why has it not happened yet? You know, but you can be world peace yourself and emanate that out. You know, you can be love and compassion and be a beacon of light and peace and compassion for those who meet you.
And what's the way to trust that at all times when we have, of course, also some other limiting beliefs in our system?
Well, it's to keep coming back to that feeling in your heart, you know, the feeling of goodness, and just to feel that presence. In India, they call the Jyoti, the sacred flame, you know, and that's where meditation comes in, to just keep strengthening that. The more you put your attention on it, the stronger it becomes. So the great secret of spirituality is what your attention is on is what you become. So you put your attention on the light, you become the light. Put your attention on love, you become a being of love. So that's, you sit down and meditate, which I recommend doing at least twice a day. I do it quite a bit more whenever I have 5 minutes here and there. Just sit down and turn your attention to the center of your being and say, hello, God, I'm here. This is Peter. I ask you to come through me. Every morning I do this. I offer myself to God, the I am presence, and I ask the I am presence to come down into my physical body and to manifest God on the earth plane, you know. Sometime I'll make a video of that. It's kind of combining affirmation with Qigong.
Yeah. And how does that work actually? You explain how affirmations, actually the power of thought and our mind also creates our experience. But what if we don't think at all? Is there like a truth in the middle, or do we only create?
Well, there's also, you know, what they call mindlessness. It's just habitual action. But, you know, even when I drive the car, I don't meditate while I'm driving, but when I get in the car, I say, I am the presence of God driving this car. I am invincibly protected, and I am guided and directed and so on. Then you can, you know, still have your normal thoughts about where you're going, what you're going to do, so on. But, or, you know, just even going for a walk. I'm the presence of God walking, but then, you know, just see where the presence guides you and just give joy. I feel joy for life, you know. And what does the universe have to show me on this walk? Be open to what the masters want to reveal to you. You know, you never know when some great revelation will come through. Like, I live near a school playground, and I went for a walk yesterday and I saw children playing soccer, 6-year-old children, and I really saw how the parents and the coach was programming them to be aggressive, and that there's the enemy, you know, not the enemy, but the opposite team, and you have to beat them. So even at 6 years old, these children were being trained to be competitive and aggressive, you know, and that's kind of, I saw, wow, that's how we're programmed even as children, that the world is about competition and beating other people, you know, and getting what you need regardless of their needs, you know. And, but also there's a teaching of cooperation to some degree, but so no, I saw that the masters had guided me there to see how these children were being trained, you know. That was very profound lesson for me just through going for a walk.
Yeah, and that's also interesting indeed, of like these early conditionings that arise. And then with these affirmations, we kind of overwrite them in a way, we could say, or is it also more true? That was actually a bit what I meant with my previous question. Like, what if we don't believe the conditioning and not the affirmation? Which side is more true, or is there none? If that makes sense. How do you see that?
Well, I think, you know, in meditation, you have to keep coming back. I am being shown what is true, you know, what it is that God wants me to become. But like this lesson with these children, just to be aware that that programming is in there, it's in all of us that we receive, but I can overcome that, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I see in the times we're in now, people losing friendships with dear friends over arguments, but that doesn't have to be. We can say, you're entitled to your opinion, I have my opinion, but the light of God is in both of us. We still have our friendship. You know, it's very tricky, but a lot of people are going through challenges now in that regard. Yeah. I don't know if that answers your question, but
well, it's of course a difficult one. Yeah, also difficult to phrase it, but it's an interesting exploration. So
if you take your life as you're in a schoolroom and there is a plan for your life, and you chose to be born to these parents at this time and to go through what you're going through. So I am being shown why I'm here, what the lesson is, and how can I change the things that are negative And how can I benefit others? Because in benefiting others, we are also benefiting ourselves, you know. It's about learning compassion, you know, but if you take every day as a sacred, you know, classroom, that there's something you're supposed to learn today, or there's some gift waiting for you down that dark tunnel, that the masters want to give you something.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess we can see what, do you want to share something else before we conclude, or about the book, about the translation, or something else that comes up?
Well, no, except I'm grateful that you've taken on this task to translate this. And I see that you have, you know, great work ahead of you, and you emanate that quality the book is talking about, the divine love and compassion. So I encourage you to keep doing that, and you will be a beacon of light for the world.
Thank you.